Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Green. You're tuning in and watching AMTV, Alternative Media Television Live. Thank you so much for your support. It is of course Thursday, September 29th, 2016. And thank you to all of you who have recently joined on-demand subscribers, $4.95 a month, $49.95 a year. The price of a cup of coffee supports us directly, alternatively. In fact, I even had a subscriber yesterday say, well, then why do you use YouTube, Christopher? Why are you using all these social media platforms? Like, why don't you build something else? And I almost want to take a brick to my head because we did. It's what on-demand is. It is the alternative. So support us. Enough of you support us. Shit, we'll leave YouTube and YouScrew and Facebook and all these places forever. But you need to support us. You know, it's kind of like that movie, Build It and They Will Come. Now it's up to you guys. We've done our part. So we're leading the pack here, doing everything we can as we go to war with the mainstream media. As our video producer here was saying, you know, we're getting buff fighting the mainstream media, right? We're going after them. That's right. Very interesting stories today. A mystery man removes folder from Hillary's podium. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but during the presidential debate, this is something that I picked up on. We have this cleaner who rushes to the podium immediately where Hillary Clinton was standing and giving all these signals to Lester Holt, the Lester molester, who had very carefully framed specific questions to put Donald Trump on the defensive. But interesting about this, and we'll go to the clip, this cleaner, immediately after Hillary Rodham Clinton shakes Donald Trump's hand, rushes the stage, rushes to the podium, grabs what appears to be a folder, puts it under his arm, and then as the camera shot is following him, Lester Holt gets up, they make eye contact, and it appears, although the frame and the camera shot transitions at that exact moment, but it appears like the cleaner, whoever it is that works for Hillary Clinton, probably just scrapping the evidence of her communication with Lester Holt and the hand signals, etc., looks like he gives a potential handoff to Lester molester Holt. Let's go to that clip. So pretty interesting, isn't it, folks? An unidentified man removes folder from Hillary's podium, slips to NBC Holt. The article here that I'm looking at says, okay, now I saw NFL quarterbacks hand off the ball to running backs before, and I've seen TV movie show drug deal handoffs, but you have to admit, this particular handoff at a presidential debate is suspicious. It's suspicious because the guy that swiped the folder from Hillary Clinton's podium didn't make a move to Donald Trump's side. Now, even after the fact, there is some footage, which we'll grab for you and cut into this video today, where the cleaner appears to meet up post the debate with Hillary Rodham Clinton. And they're smiling. You know, he's basically telling her, hey, I got the evidence for you, Hillary. Hillary, that's right. We've got all the evidence. I destroyed all of it. We put it in the shredder, and then I poured bleach all over it and lit a match. Right? I mean, the evidence has been destroyed. Just like her email infrastructure server, which, to be frank with you guys, do you really think that the NSA doesn't have Hillary Clinton's emails? Really? Because they've got them. Any type of digital communication in today's world is stored at a national spying agency database server. You know, these big multi-billion-dollar complexes where they store every single text message that you've ever sent, received, everything that you've ever done. I mean, they'll spy on you too as well through your camera. You know, record intimate footage while you're at your home or something like that. They'll use all of this against you at some point in the future, especially when Barack Obama hands off the internet, which people think I'm like making this stuff up. They're like, hey, Christopher, how dare you make up this stuff? You're going to look like a fool come October 1st when the internet's still here. Look, I'm not saying that we're not fighting this, but it is an emergency. Why do you think it's an emergency? Because we're freaking ringing the alarm bells so that we all do something about it. So you do contact your senators. So you do contact your congressmen. So you do contact and push, you know, our branches of government in the right direction to put a stop to this. Just like we saw with SOPA. Just like we've seen alternative media change the discourse and the narrative of the bullshit mainstream media. Again, we're getting buff here at AMTV. I've got some work to do. I'll admit that, but we're getting buff here fighting the mainstream media. We need your support. We need you to take action. And we need to stop this internet handoff. Also, in addition to this, compounding the mystery man who removed the folder, the cleaner from Hillary Clinton's podium. Maybe he's that other type of cleaner too. You know, the mob, they have their cleaners. Well, you know what they do. The Clinton body count list, it's pretty high. People dropping barbells on their throat like the former head of the UN, the African-American gentleman. Seems to happen more often and more often. Anytime you're in and around the Clintons and you've got dirt on them, you just somehow wind up dead. Kind of like Barack Obama and Andrew Breitbart. Remember when Andrew said, I've got video? He's basically going to end Barack Obama. And then he just wound up dead. They said it was like a heart attack or something, cardiovascular, disease or something like that. Even though the guy that did his autopsy also died before he released the autopsy. Yeah, it's just a coinky dinky. It's a coincidence. So who knows what type of cleaner that guy was. But compounding this intrigue, you see, it's kind of like X-Files with Christopher Green. Compounding this mystery, in addition to the unidentified mystery man removing a folder from Hillary's podium, a world champion poker player says that Clinton secretly signaled moderator during debate. Secretly signaled moderator Lester Holt, Lester Molester, who works for the mainstream media that owns Hillary Clinton because it's owned by the corporate interest that owns the mainstream media. Goes on to say that Hillary Clinton used hand signals to communicate with moderator Lester Holt during the first U.S. presidential debate. A four-time world champion poker player has stated. A video recently uploaded to YouTube depicts the former Secretary of State scratching her face several times during the 90-minute debate. Like this. In fact, this video has actually been taken down by YouTube. They say it's like some copyright infringement. She can't even watch it anymore. Isn't that convenient? Only makes you think there's more truth to it, right? Signals to Holt, the video editor claims, which meant Clinton wanted to get a zinger in and to go to her without changing the subject. Now, we talked about this live on the fly. In fact, if you're one of our on-demand subscribers, you've watched part one so far. Part two's coming out of the live critique and commentary courtesy of me as we were watching the debate. You watched it along with me. And one of the first things I pointed out is notice how Lester Holt continues to ask these pre-planned questions and only puts Donald J. Trump on the defensive, right? It only put Trump in a corner on sexism or birtherism or racism, all these things that Clinton wants to point out, these PC things that, she's going on the prowl and on the attack with an attempt to defeat Donald Trump. Notice how Lester Holt didn't ask any questions or form any narrative around Hillary Clinton's emails, the Clinton Foundation scam, money laundering scam that is, Benghazi Gate, her husband being a sexual predator. I mean, none of these things did Lester Holt go after. Now, we've been hearing through the grapevine from the Donald Trump camp, which by the way is going to be in Prescott, Arizona on Tuesday, of which we are hoping to get a sit-down interview with Donald Trump to get more of his story out to the world. So stay posted on that. Another reason to support us on demand, support our crew, our infrastructure, so we can do these kinds of things. And wish us luck. But we've been hearing from the Donald Trump camp that although he refrained from going after Hillary Clinton's husband in round one of this fight night that makes up the political theater that is the presidential debates, that he won't be holding back on round two regarding the sexual predator that makes up Bill. I was talking about it in our studio this morning. It's not exactly like Donald Trump is squeaky clean. We know he's a lot more squeaky clean than Hillary Clinton and her husband, but that could also be a factor. And again, we think critically, both sides of the aisle here at AMTV, Alternative Media Television, could be a factor in one of the reasons maybe Trump hasn't gone as hard after Hillary and her perverted, alleged, and accused rapist of a husband. Donald Trump has had his reported infidelities as well. But nobody's perfect. But again, we're going to think critically, both sides of the aisle could play and be a factor in one of the reasons why Donald hasn't gone after that particular topic with a little bit more force. Although we think that he should, especially when this rotten you-know-what goes after his integrity and these kinds of things. If anything, Americans are questioning your integrity, Hillary Clinton. So if you look at this article here, you can see the different animated GIFs of Hillary signaling, it's kind of like picking her nose as the she-devil that she is. These are all times Lester Molester Holt begins jumping in with some of these penetrating questions to put Donald Trump on the defensive. Quote, the first signal to halt comes when Hillary wants to get her taxes zinger in after Trump talks about the country being in debt, going after Trump releasing his tax returns even though they're currently under audit. An earlier version of the video was taken down from YouTube, citing a copyright claim by Merlin SC Distribution. Reporters at TruePundit.com claimed that there were no such signals used by Clinton in previous debate performances. TruePundit cross-referenced Clinton's speeches, campaign appearances, and her 2008 debate performances against President Obama, the website reports. According to that analysis, Clinton never previously used these hand motions to supposedly scratch her face. In fact, she rarely touches her face at all. Also investigating the video's claims, author Mike Cernovich reached out to a professional poker player for assistance analyzing the potential hand signals. He tweets, curious, do the poker pros like this person he tweets see this as a signal to moderator Lester Holt? They do. Very, very mysterious. Very, very suspicious. Very, very interesting. Not only do we have a mystery man, a cleaner, removing a folder suspiciously from Hillary's podium immediately following the debate, but we also have a world champion poker player confirming that Hillary Clinton was cheating during the first presidential debate here in 2016. Diamond and Silk, the lovely African-American, well-worded women that support Donald Trump, they went on a little bit of a rant the other day post the presidential debate. They're like, no, you didn't, America. No, you didn't, Hillary Clinton. Lester Holt, very disappointed in the moderator, Lester, who obviously works for the mainstream media and the establishment. But you got to really love these ladies, man. They support the Trumpster. I can see Pepe the Frog behind them, just like he's hanging out behind me quite a bit. Let's go to a little bit of that clip.
Hey, y'all. Hey. I know y'all saw what happened last night on those debates, but here is our take. Now, Hillary started off lying right off the bat. Yep. Yeah, she the one said that Donald Trump was given $14 million by his family. No, boo. No. It was $1 million, and he took that and turned it into $10 billion. We don't give a damn about that birther issue. That's right. And why wasn't you asking Hillary about her pay-for-play scheme? That's right. About her email scandal? About the fact that she don't even understand that C stands for classified? That's right. About the fact that she don't know how to remember anything? Oh, you didn't ask her that, did you? Oh, no. Well, listen up, Lester. Listen. Don't make us fester. And you feel the wrath of Diamond and Silk? Right. I just want you to know one thing. In the end, Donald J. Trump is going to win. We'll see you for round 2, October the 9th.
So that's right, Lester. Don't make us fester, Lester. Donald Trump's going to win round 2. You got to love those ladies. They're pretty funny. They really are. They're well spoken. It's great to see, strong, powerful African-American black women stand up for what they believe in and vote the way of Donald Trump, who is a much, much better option than Hillary, that we know continues to deceive us and continues to fulfill the wishes of those that own her. It's time for a change in America, as these women, know all too well. Clinton rape accuser drops Twitter bomb on Chelsea. Recently says after Bill and Hillary Clinton's daughter attacked GOP nominee Donald Trump for daring to mention her father's sexual transgressions like it's not relevant or something, even though it is, Juanita Broderick, who famously accused former President Bill Clinton of raping her, took to Twitter Wednesday to deliver the bad news to Chelsea Clinton. I just have to pause here. I really am perplexed how anyone on the radical left can support Hillary. I seriously don't understand it. Like, her husband has been accused of rape. He's a sexual predator. He hurts innocent women as he goes sniffing for any skirt he can find, yet these women continue to support Hillary. I seriously don't freaking get it. Like, if you're a feminist, what, you just approve of these men being just violent monsters? Because it's really what Hillary is. So this continues. She says, this is Juanita to Chelsea, your parents are not good people, quote. And your father was, and probably still is, a sexual predator, quote. Remember how Hillary said that all sexual assault victims should be believed? A series of 6 tweets came from Broderick, who said Clinton raped her in a hotel room 38 years ago. God, he sounds like such a nice guy. Oh, and Hillary must be such a nice person to stay with a monster like that. W&D recently reported that a nurse who treated her after the alleged sexual assault confirmed Broderick's account. And then she goes out and puts out these series of tweets. Go ahead, follow her for yourself. Read all of them. You know, you can get all these tweets in real time about the sexual assault that she suffered and the rape, according to her, from the sexual predator that makes up the monster that is Bill Clinton, sniffing skirts all day long, still sniffing skirts, according to Colin Powell. Here's my response to Chelsea Clinton's statement about her father's sexual misdeeds. Chelsea, you said you don't remember a time in your life that your parents weren't being attacked? Well, there's a very good reason for this. Your parents are not good people, Chelsea. Your father was and probably still is a sexual predator. Your mother has always lied and covered up for him. All true, by the way. I say again, I was 35 years old when Bill Clinton raped me and Hillary tried to silence me, probably with a cleaner. I am now 73 and it never goes away. Here you have this poor woman at 35 years old. She was, according to her, raped by Bill Clinton. Now she's 73 and she can barely sleep at night. Again, Hillary's such a great feminist, isn't she? What a freaking loser. What a loser. And if you're voting for Hillary Clinton, you're a loser. You're scum. You're scum. You're not even the scum at the bottom of my shoe. You're worse than that. You're so scummy scum, I can't even look at you. In fact, if you're voting Hillary Clinton, just turn off this video right now and go look at yourself in the mirror. And while you're at it, go punch yourself in the face, you scum. You idiotic, radical leftist scum. Because it's exactly what you are. Juanita Broderick continues, scum. She says, the truth is, what has brought the attacks on your family. See, this is fun. Isn't it funny? Bill Clinton's a rapist. Isn't that hilarious? Yeah, and Hillary Clinton condones that rape. That's also funny, isn't it? The truth is, what has brought the attacks on your family, this is from Juanita, and you are smart enough to know that by now, basically just reassuring her that, yes, your parents are absolute scum. You know, it'd be kind of nice if Hillary got in just to see that scum every day. Maybe even be doing us a favor. That way we could attack that scum through the media on a daily basis. Kind of like we have Barack Hussein in the membrane, scummy Obama. Goes on to say from the Daily Mail, your parents are not good people, they're scum. I'm interjecting that. Bill Clinton rape accuser Juanita Broderick lashes out at Chelsea Clinton after former first daughter calls dad's sex scandals a distraction. Like, is this seriously America? Like, I seriously don't get it. I'm being frank. I'm being honest. Like, how is this lady running for president? I really don't understand it. Her husband was impeached. He said he did not have sexual relations with that woman, even though he did. He's been accused of rape multiple times. He's a monster, a sexual predator. Like, how is he allowed to get away with this? And more importantly, how does the radical left even endorse this lady? I seriously don't understand it. It only proves the point of how much of an idiocracy this country truly is. The sheeple are just bawing every single day as they consume bullshit. It only proves my point. It's why it's almost hilarious. It's intriguing that it's this easy to dumb people down. I guess everybody just must be on medication nowadays, right? Everyone's got to be somehow, whether or not it's the TV medication through the mind control or it's, SSRI medication, put out by big pharmaceutical companies. Now, not saying that some people might legitimately need help, but not every single American needs to be on these things. And the pill pushers that make up the doctors today are pushing this literally down most people's throats. Also, a very tragic story in the news today. More than 100 people injured, 1 dead in New Jersey Transit Hoboken crash. A commuter train barreled into the terminal of the New Jersey Transit station Thursday, leaving 108 people injured and at least 1 dead among massive damage. And there was images of people coming out. One gentleman that I saw this morning who's kind of got blood, dripping down his shirt. Looks like there was a lot of injuries. Not sure how many dead yet. The rush hour wreck happened around 8:45 a.m., obliterating part of the station's roof. mangling steel beams and smashing glass. I thought we were going to die, passenger Alexis Valley said, who is 5 months pregnant and needed 4 staples on her head after the crash, and hopefully that her youngin's okay as well, a pregnant lady. You can go through these images here and you see the commotion. In fact, let's go to a quick video right now to see kind of what the after effects of this damage looked like.
Holy crap.
So again, folks, I hope everybody's okay, but the first thought that popped in my mind, and probably many of yours, is this terrorism? Now, just about a week or so ago, there were explosive devices found and detonated near an Elizabeth train station not too far away from this particular location. Now, my initial gut reaction was and is, this is not terrorism, but this story is developing. And so we'll have to see if this is linked, once again, to the massive migration pushed by people like George Soros, these very evil men that not only donate millions of dollars to the terrorist organization that makes up Black Lives Matter, but also the super PACs that make up Hillary Clinton's campaign. I've got to go to a quick break. I'm Christopher Green. You're tuning into AMTV Alternative Media Television. Thank you so much for your support. Again, the price of a cup of coffee, $4.95 a month, $49.95 a year. Get our entire broadcast completely commercial and ad-free. We'll be right back. Hard-hitting and in your face. Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Green. We are back. You're watching AMTV Alternative Media Television. Julian Assange, who has promised to drop a major October surprise, will actually be delivering an announcement next Tuesday from his balcony in London from the Ecuadorian embassy. Yeah, Julian has been basically in jail for leaking the truth for many years, while Hillary Clinton walks around scot-free for lying and committing crimes. We discussed earlier in this video how there's quite the assumption that she was cheating at the presidential debate at Hofstra University just a few days ago. Announced from a reporter, I believe from NBC, if I remember correctly, but check me if I'm wrong. His name's Jesse Rodriguez, maybe it's MSNBC, says that Julian Assange set to make an announcement from his balcony in London next Tuesday, according to @WikiLeaks, their Twitter account. So it makes you wonder. I mean, and Julian did come out not too long ago. In fact, we had a super viral video on this post the release and leak that basically had Debbie Wasserman Schultz step down and only prove that the election on the Democratic Party side was rigged to go Hillary Rotten Clinton and was working against Bernie Sanders at the time, now is promising an even bigger bombshell, an October surprise. As I tweeted recently, still no word from Julian Assange @WikiLeaks. Well, it's expected that we will get a little bit more information on Tuesday. Of course, we will be covering all of that here, live and in real time, at AMTV, Alternative Media Television. Trump ally Roger Stone says his very good friend is meeting with Julian Assange right now. Back to him. Now, there's even been reports of Roger Stone, who's a frequent guest, we'd like to have him on our program as well, over at Infowars.com, that the FBI is investigating his potential relationship with Julian Assange. Yes, that's right. The FBI won't do anything when it comes to Hillary Clinton and her email scandal or any other of these illegal activities that she's committed and crimes, but they will go after a media pundit like Roger Stone, who supposedly knows in discussion and has sources linked to Julian Assange. Roger goes on to say, a very good friend of mine is on his way to London even as we speak to talk to him. I will get a report shortly. I think Julian is a freedom fighter, that he is a truth teller. The idea that he is working for the Russians is as absurd as the idea put forward by a ridiculous CIA director that the Russians are going to hack our elections. no. Let's go to a brief clip of this interview.
What about WikiLeaks? He said like 3 weeks ago, the next week, then he said before the debate, what the hell is going on with Julian Assange, who I admire, but, I mean, give us the data. Do it now.
Well, I think that he has been distracted by these trumped-up charges against him of sexual harassment, that he assaulted some woman. So now going to the Swedish Supreme Court. This is a globalist attempt to silence him.
That's what I thought. They got a bunch of fake charges, so he's tied up with that.
He is tied up with that, but a very good friend of mine is on his way to London, even as we speak, to talk to him. I will get a report shortly.
Okay, folks, so you heard it right there. Julian Assange is set to make a major announcement next Tuesday from his balcony and his Ecuadorian prison in London. And also a little commentary there from Roger Stone. This comes at the same time. If you follow James O'Keefe on Twitter, many of you are probably familiar with him. He does a lot of viral video work, used to work with Andrew Breitbart before he tragically passed. There was somebody that tweeted him, I believe this was yesterday, says James O'Keefe, at James O'Keefe, in Hillary Clinton's case, even a video or paper trail does not matter in terms of bringing charges or incriminating her or, taking legal action against this woman. He responds, wrong. We have tape of them demeaning and disparaging black people in the worst ways. That will matter coming in October. So we have to question, what is this October surprise? I'd actually like to think and hear what you guys think. Put your comment question in the box below. And of course, I will respond. But I think something major is coming. Again, we've got to be patient with people like Julian Assange, who talk a big talk, but have a tendency to back that up, as we recently saw, expelling to the public and showing the truth about how the Democratic Party actually really works. A rigged two-party, but really one-party system. Again, Hillary Clinton had always been selected by her handlers. And this is not an election, folks. It is a selection. And at the same time, the U.S. and Obama are set to give the internet away on October 1st, 2016. So this is a ticking clock. This is a ticking time bomb. And people think I'm making this up. They're like, Christopher, is this really going to happen? Has the internet really been given away? Well, it sure does look like it. According to a Yahoo report, U.S. prepares to cede key role for internet. The U.S. government is set to cut the final thread of its oversight of the internet, yielding a largely symbolic but nevertheless significant role over the online address system. Barring any last-minute glitches, the transition will occur at midnight Friday, when the U.S. contract expires for the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, which manages the Internet's so-called root zone. When the argument with the U.S. Commerce Department runs out, ICANN will become a self-regulating, nonprofit, international entity managing the Internet Assigned Numbers Authority, the system for online domains such as .com. U.S. and ICANN officials say the change is part of a long-standing plan to privatize those functions, give big tech more power and the government more power. But some critics complain about a giveaway that could threaten the Internet's integrity. Christopher Mondini, ICANN's Vice President for Global Business Engagement, said, the change will have no impact on day-to-day Internet use. Yeah, right. And will assure the global community that the system is free from government regulation and interference. He goes on to say, quote, this is a new kind of governance model. Now, we know this is BS. We know they want to clamp down the Internet. We know they want to shut down the truth, the deplorables, as Hillary Clinton calls it, people with a voice. We know they want to shut down the freedom of speech. We know that they want to control the narrative. They know, because it's happening in real time, companies, multi-billion-dollar entities like CNN, the Clinton News Network, are losing and bleeding viewers. The only way to get that back is to shut down the independent bodies like us that are providing a message demanded by the public and those of you tuning in around the world. So, folks, this is very, very real. It's September 29th as we approach October 1st, and this is a ticking time bomb. How much time do we have? I'm just pulling out my calendar here. So we've got today, we've got the 30th, obviously tomorrow, and then what happens? Will our branches of government put a stop to this? Have you contacted your senators, your congressmen? Are you raising alarm bells? Are you sharing our content? Are you sharing our videos or videos like these, warning people of an imminent threat to our freedom of speech and the internet, as Obama calls the wild, wild west as we know it? These are very, very serious issues. And what it's doing, folks, is giving internet control over to authoritarian masters of the universe. Breitbart had a very good article today where they go on to talk about this at great length, saying President Barack Obama's drive to hand off control of internet domains to a foreign multinational operation will give some very unpleasant regimes equal say over the future of online speech and commerce. In fact, they are likely to have much more influence in America because they will collectively push hard for a more tightly controlled internet. And they are known for aggressively using political and economic pressure to get what they want. You see, other countries around the world, whether or not that's North Korea or China, there's no free internet there, right? People can't access these. It's becoming more difficult to censor, because the internet is what it is and there's so many channels, et cetera, and ways to, hack around these things. But there's a very tightly controlled, interwoven message that the people of China, for example, receive from the government courtesy of their highly censored internet. The United States wants that same control. Now, first of all, it would be naive to think that there's not already some of that control here in the United States, for example, and or in places like Europe. But to see them push even further this direction, so they are mirroring totalitarian governments and regimes like the government of North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un and others, is shocking and appalling. And you and we should do everything to stop it. Very, very scary time. China specifically wrote the book on authoritarian control of online speech. The legendary Great Firewall of China, for example, prevents citizens of the communist state from accessing global content that the Politburo disapproves of. Chinese technology companies are required by law to provide the regime with backdoor access to just about everything. Chinese government outright banned online news reporting in July, granting the government even tighter interwoven control over the spread of information. Websites are only permitted to post news from official government sources. Chinese online news wasn't exactly a bastion of freedom before that, of course, but at least the government censors had to track down news stories they disliked and demand the site administrators take them down. So basically what we have here, folks, is a ceding of power to an international body such as the UN, the United Nations, as well as equal input to these and for these totalitarian governments and regimes like North Korea, China, etc., and giving what was once U.S. sovereign control of the most free digital technology in this revolution that we've been living through, really not that long of a time. I mean, a lot of this has happened in just the last decade. I mean, Google and Twitter and these companies didn't even exist up until about 10 years ago. And handing all of this amazing, great technology and internet freedom to these other places where the American people have less of a say, and we become the smorgasbord, if you want to call it that, of this New World Order globalist control system that we've been warning about really since the unearthing of this channel. Very, very worrisome. Another article from Politico says 4 Republican state attorney generals are suing to stop the Obama administration from transferring oversight of the internet to an international body, arguing the transition would violate the U.S. Constitution. A lawsuit filed Wednesday in a Texas federal court threatens to throw up a new roadblock to one of the White House's top tech priorities, just days before the scheduled October 1st transfer. Now, of course, we've also seen politicians like Ted Cruz standing up against this as well, something that I see as a very, very good thing. And I think we need to support anybody and any politician fighting and upholding this pushback against, again, the United States and Obama just giving control of our precious internet to these independent third bodies. Also, pretty funny video I was watching late last night. Gary Johnson goes on this fake rant. It's kind of ridiculous. He's wearing his jeans, like his mom jeans, and he's got his tie and his coat on, and he actually stands up out of his chair. We interviewed Gary Johnson earlier. You know Gary? He doesn't know what Aleppo is. And then he had another Aleppo moment the other night when he was asked by, I think it was Chris Matthews, who his favorite world leader was. And he's like, oh, I'm having another Aleppo moment. He honestly couldn't name one other world leader. I mean, at the very least, he could have just said, I don't have a favorite world leader. But he goes on a rant, September 28th, 2016, and gets really, really fake angry. It's hilarious over foreign policy and exclusion from the debates, even though we know he's just stealing votes from Donald Trump. Thank you very much, Gary Johnson. We really appreciate you stealing votes from Donald and helping Hillary Clinton get elected. Take a look.
I think one thing people are wondering is, if you were in the debate, how would you handle some of these detailed policy questions? Like you had the Aleppo incident, and Hillary Clinton has, like you guys had in your Facebook briefing, piles and piles of
So I
briefs.
would tell people that in my heart, I want to stop with these military interventions. In my heart, I don't want to send our men and servicewomen to lose their lives, and I don't want them to be responsible for what ultimately are thousands of innocent people being killed in these countries. So Hillary Clinton dots the I's and crosses the T's on all of the names and everything associated with this. But as a result of that, we have the foreign policy that we have right now that I have to tell you, I think is horrible. Horrible! And that's how I would answer it tonight. I would be mad. I would be angry. I would be angry that people would be calling me out on the names, or geographic locations, names of foreign leaders, when the underlying policy has thousands of people dying. And that is unacceptable.
So is this the Gary Johnson that we would have seen in the debate?
This is the Gary Johnson that you would have seen in the debates. It angers me to no end.
And why do you think...
Huh? Like, I think Gary Johnson was like, all right, man, I've been excluded from the debates. I'm going to try my attempt at a viral video. I've seen that guy Chris Green yell a lot on camera, or somebody like me, and he's like, all right, I got my mom jeans on. He's like, I'm angry, America. I'm angry. Check out my jeans. I'm in these jeans, these mom jeans. I'm casual, and I'm ranting, and I'm angry. But I don't know what Aleppo was, and I can't name my favorite world leader. And not too long ago, there was another video of me where I basically got mad for calling an illegal alien illegal because I'm an idiot and I'm retarded and I'm Gary Johnson. Take a look at that clip.
Came into this country because they couldn't get in legally and the jobs existed. Just so that you know, when you use that term illegal immigrants, you are upsetting a lot of people by saying that, just so that you know.
Okay, noted.
If you use the term illegal immigrants, that is very incendiary to our Hispanic population here in this country.
Why is that?
It just is. It just is. Just so that you know. Just so that you know and you don't have to use that term.
But isn't the term accurate in the sense that they entered the country, they immigrated to the country illegally, so they are... I'm not
They
saying...
came into this country because they couldn't get in legally and the jobs existed.
If you enter the country without documentation, is that or is that not an illegal act?
What? What are you talking about? They came into the country illegally because they couldn't get in legally. Yeah, that makes them illegal, Gary. It's called illegal immigration. And there's nothing wrong with calling them illegal immigrants or illegal aliens when they're coming here illegally. But again, you don't know where Aleppo is. And this is what we would have gotten from Gary Johnson at the debates. A guy who can't even name one freaking world leader. I mean, he could have just thrown anything out, like, anything at all. His VP dude that nobody knows, who was sitting next to him, was like, Merkel.
Merkel?
Who's your favorite foreign leader?
Who's my favorite?
Just name anywhere in the country, any one of the continents, any country. Name one foreign leader that you respect and look up to. Anybody.
Mine was Shimon Peres.
No, okay, I'm talking about living. Go ahead. You got to do this. Anywhere, any continent. Canada, Mexico, Europe over there, Asia, South America, Africa. Name a foreign leader that you respect.
I guess I'm having an Aleppo moment in the former president of Mexico.
But I'm giving you the whole world.
I know.
Anybody in the world you like. Anybody. Pick any leader.
The former president of Mexico.
Which one?
I'm having a brain.
Well, name anybody.
Fox, Zedillo. Fox.
Okay, who's your favorite foreign leader? Get him off the hook. Name a foreign leader you respect.
He was terrific.
Any foreign leader.
Merkel.
I mean, he just like threw something out. What do you think? Is Gary Johnson stealing votes from the Donald? From Pepe the Frog? Well, one thing I think we can probably all agree on, but put your comment question in the box, is below, Gary Johnson is an idiot. Again, a very nice guy, and I like your mom jeans, Gary, but you're really dumbing down the sheep. I've got to go to a quick break. I'm Christopher Green. Thank you for tuning in. AMTV Alternative Media Television. When we get back, I will be going live to a Q&A session with you, our audience, all of our on-demand subscribers, and also answering a few questions on Facebook. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hard hitting it in your face. Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Green. You're tuning in to our live broadcast, an AMA with me, Ask Me Anything, here on Facebook as well as on demand. Please subscribe if you haven't already. At amtvmedia.com, price of a cup of coffee. You support everything that we do. We are capping off a fantastic show today. We've got a ton of videos that will be hitting our platform and not too long, as soon as we wrap all this stuff up. But I want to hear from you guys. I'm getting tons and tons of questions from you, so now's your opportunity. Again, don't ask me something stupid, guys. Give me a good question to answer. Challenge me a little bit here at AMTV. And again, thank you for all of your support. It's about 2:45-ish p.m. Arizona time, Pacific time. We will start in about 10 or 15 minutes once we get some questions into the feed. So make sure to be first to ask your question, because that's how I'll be reading it. Whoever asks a question first, I'll go through that and we'll go down the list, and I'll be holding it for about 15 or 20 minutes. So at the top of the hour, we will get started. Stories, just a sneak preview to give you guys that we've reported on today. Mystery man removes folder from Hillary's podium. Not sure if you guys saw this, but very, very interesting. Right after the presidential debate, Hillary's, giving her fake smile, and she didn't want to shake Donald Trump's hand. This cleaner guy walks over very sternly, goes to her podium and grabs like a manila folder or something with something on there. Nobody knows what it is. And then he appears, as he shifts towards the camera, Lester Holt gets up, the Lester molester, like there's some kind of handoff. Mystery man. Who is this guy? He actually meets with Hillary Clinton later, too. In another story, compounding the intrigue and mystery, a world champion poker player accuses Hillary of hand signaling Lester molester Holt. She's like, putting her hand on her face, like kind of by her nose. It's interesting, she rarely touches her face, but somehow she's touching her face this entire time during the presidential debate at key moments when she needs Lester to put Donald Trump on the defensive. Again, what did we say here first? Pay very close attention to the questions asked by Lester, because that'll dictate and control the narrative, and it's exactly what it did. Put Donald Trump on the defensive and Hillary Clinton on the offensive. So not only do we have a mystery man, a mysterious cleaner, maybe he's also some other kind of cleaner. Who knows? The Clinton body count list goes higher and higher. But he approaches the podium, takes what appears to be, looks like a manila folder, and then in the last frame is approaching Lester Holt before they go to a cut. Was there a handoff? Did he give the questions, the pre-selected questions, so Hillary knew what was coming, or what was there? Also, this poker player, a world champion, in his professional opinion, says Hillary Clinton was cheating, essentially. We'll also talk about Diamond and Silk defending Donald Trump today, where they go on one of their epic rants once again and say some not so kind of words about Lester Holt. Of course, we've covered a lot about the 100 injured in the tragic New Jersey train crash today. What do you guys think? Was that a terrorist act? Not too long ago, just about a week ago, there was a detonation of, pipe bombs, not too far from where this train crash just derailed. I believe it was earlier this morning. Again, tragic. My first instinct on it was that this looks like just a legitimate accident. But again, this story is developing. So maybe even as I'm speaking right now, something's changing. But I'd like to hear your thoughts on whether or not you think it has terrorism links or not. Also, Julian Assange, founder of WikiLeaks, who's essentially in prison in Ecuador, in London, is scheduled to make a very important announcement on Tuesday of next week. Very, very interesting. Again, we've got some super viral videos where we talk about Julian Assange and his October surprise and the fact that it's highly likely he's going to be unearthing a bombshell that could potentially destroy Hillary Clinton. Just like he unearthed a bombshell not too long ago, although some people said it was an inside job, that removed Debbie Wasserman Schultz from the head of the DNC and only proved to the American people and the constituency of the Democrat Democratic Party, that it was an inside job rigged against Bernie Sanders from the very, very get-go. Again, if you're just joining us live, I'm Christopher Green. You're watching AMTV. We're doing an AMA. Put your question and comment in the comment question box below. I'll be going through those today, and we'll be doing that for about 15, 20 minutes or so as we wrap up today's live broadcast. Also talk about the U.S. handoff, Barack Obama giving the internet away to the United Nations, October 1st, 2016. We were just a day or so away from that. This is a very, very serious issue. And again, we've put out a series of warning videos. I highly recommend that you call your senators, call your congressmen, contact the branches of government, local officials, etc. Any way that you can to put a stop to this, just like we've seen some success in the past with SOPA, etc. But from everything I'm seeing now outside of Ted Cruz, who I think that we should support, even if you're crossing, party lines here, who's actually pushing back against this Orwellian control and essentially a transfership of a once sovereign wild, wild west internet that Obama doesn't like to an internet that gives totalitarian regimes and governments like the government of North Korea, Kim Jong-un, and the former communist nation of China equal say as they censor their own people in what they can consume from a freedom perspective, the information, just like you're watching this, and clamping down on alternative forms of communication, free speech, etc. Very, very serious. And it's another reason why I continue to ask and plead with all of you, please, please, please support us directly. Alternatively, the price of a cup of coffee, $4.95 a month, $49.95 a year. Not only get all of our amazing content, get it completely commercial and ad-free, uncut, uncensored, unfiltered, and join our underground community. It's pretty awesome. I'm doing AMAs like this all the time. Tons of more content you can't get anywhere else. I'm doing a lot of news sections too. We've done some self-help clips recently. I've gotten really positive feedback. People are like, man, please do more of these. It's helped me so much. I'm learning so much. There's, quite a range of content. It's really our warehouse. It's our underground bunker, so to speak, of just a crapload of AMTV content, whether or not it's our full 1 hour live show broadcast, which we just recorded and we're continuing here live with you guys, or it's our videos that we put out, roughly 5 per day now. We've really upped our game since you guys have been supporting us. The more support you give us, the more we up the game. That's how it works as we continue to lay bricks here and build this operation. In addition to our vlogs that we've been putting out for nearly 10 years now and everything else. So, we've got our sights on just this massive expansion, but also knowing that it takes a day at a time and that, Rome wasn't built in a day. Again, if you're just joining me live, I'm Christopher Green. This is a live Ask Me Anything AMA. Be going to questions here shortly at the top of the hour, unless there's so many questions now as we're waiting for some of you to tune in. Maybe you're at your office right now and you're like, oh, that's Christopher. He's live on Facebook. I better ask him a question right now. I think you should too. Do it under the radar, covertly. Like your boss, he's maybe in the other room or something, and just do it anyway. Yeah, be a thought criminal with me, Christopher Green. I remember when I had a 9-to-5 job, and I hated it, by the way. So I started AMTV, and I was kind of sitting in my cubicle or whatever, and I'm like doing research, this is just following my passion. So ask me a question if you dare, but don't ask me anything stupid. Challenge me. Make me think a little bit. So let me go ahead and refresh the page here, see where we are at. Welcome, everybody. I like how we've got the drones here coming back. I think that's really cool in the background. So we've got a couple comments. Also share this out to your friends. Let them know that we're doing an AMA. See, we just pop in and we pop off. It's like interrupting these messages. That's just how we work. This is the underground. Can you imagine in a warlike scenario where, potentially the grid, goes down and, that'll be very serious. So I guess we'll have to go back to, radios and that kind of thing. But think about how important the internet is in an environment of war, right? Isn't that the reason DARPA and the U.S. federal government built the internet in the first place as a communication line in the event of, a nuclear attack or an event, or when the system goes down, they have the internet to communicate. It's kind of like the new Morse code. So just keep in mind, I try to keep this in mind, how valuable these communication lines are and why we need to push back and put an immediate stop to a handoff of the internet courtesy of Barack Obama, a crazy man and a Manchurian candidate, to the United Nations, for example, because it might not exist otherwise. Very, very serious. Let me refresh and reload again. Thank you for joining us, everybody. Live. Let's see here. We'll go to at least a couple comments here to start. Give me a lot of comments, folks. So I'll just start going through a few of these here as we're getting closer and people are just coming on board. I see Patrick. I see several dozen others. Sunshine Godwin says, do you think that an economic collapse is imminent in the next month or two? If so, how do we prepare? Will today's decline with Deutsche Bank affect the U.S.? That's actually a story that I didn't report on today because I'm watching it. If I don't report on something, just know I'm aware of it, right? I'm watching it. I'm aware of it. Certainly seeing similar signs like what we saw with Lehman Brothers, pre-2008, 2009, which, ended in this just atrocity that made up the worst financial crash, arguably, we'd ever seen since the 1930s. And you asked a very loaded question. You're also asking me a timing question, which is very difficult. And I'll tell you up front, I don't have a crystal ball, and I certainly can't give specific timing. Anybody that did, I'm lying to you. But I can tell you that in my humble opinion, I think that there's absolute certainty of an economic crisis. I think that we are in an economic crisis right now, which might catch some people off guard, whether or not you want to admit it or not, or the Federal Reserve wants to admit it. I mean, the blowing up of these bubbles, creating even more, was it Alan Greenspan or Ben Bernanke? I can't remember, that said irrational exuberance. Well, it's become more irrational than it ever has before, ever. Even in 2007, pre the bust of 2008, 2009. And this is my humble opinion. Housing is in a bubble. We've seen this massive recovery on 0% interest rates. Stocks are in a bubble. We've seen a massive recovery on 0% interest rates, and a liquefaction of the system, and quantitative easing in these things, and borrowing, and share buybacks because companies can buy back their company's stock cheaply. There's a bubble there. I think there's a bubble in commodities as well, arguably, outside of oil, which has been experiencing kind of a deflationary spiral here over the last year or two and still really hasn't recovered, even though it's kind of pitter-pattered up back towards, $45, $50 a barrel. To get more specific, because you're asking me timing, I believe I answered the economic crisis question. We're in the crisis now. Okay, so preparation should be something that you do now. Timing-wise, I think that this extends out through the election and likely through the year. And we will more than likely see the next president of the United States, whether or not that's Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump, take office and assume that role before we see, wheels falling off, like, God forbid, the train did in New Jersey earlier today. So I think if I was just to kind of answer honestly, that I would say, 2017, watch out. Watch out. And not really an opinion. I would say let's just go back to mathematics and reversion to the mean. If we know, for example, that the average market cycle lasts somewhere between 8 and 10 years, all we have to do is count back to 2008 and 9 and see how far we've come. And again, this is just math, not even my opinion. Well, we're approaching, right, the end of that cycle. Peak to valley, peak to trough, the reversion to the mean. So just like it went like this in 2007, everybody became a real estate investor. Suddenly, everybody was a millionaire on paper, and they're buying, dozens of homes, et cetera, or they're just watching the stock market go like this. What did it do? It reverted back to the mean. We have been in a phony expansion for going on nearly a decade, as we are in 8, 9, approaching 10 years. It'll pitter-patter around maybe a little bit further, then you'll get a reversion. And I think that you will once again see, although there's a lot of arguments between whether or not is there inflation or is there deflation. Will there be an inflationary hyperinflation type collapse where it goes like this, or will there be a deflationary type of collapse? Well, I actually think that you can get both. Just like now, we have both. What did oil do? Collapse. Showed you what a rigged system OPEC is, for example. What has the stock market done? Real estate done? Food prices, milk, eggs, estate, everything's gone this way. So you've had deflation on one end, you've had inflation on the other. Maybe arguably, as you might see hyperinflationary events in some of these other buckets. How do you prepare? Great question. I've actually done extensive research on this and have having studied finance for over 10 years and actually worked for a Wall Street bank before I ever got into this and broadcasting to the world, we've put together a series of videos, which I'll be expanding on, but already have dozens in our archive on demand, where I go over the specifics on how to prepare financially from the perspective of asset allocation, something I'm a big believer in, how to basically divvy up into, you don't want all of your eggs in one basket, to divvy up into each asset to effectively manage this economic crisis that we're currently living through. And things that I actually do for myself. So it's not just me telling, oh, hey, let's do this. No, it's actually things that I live by and things that I'm doing. So you can go to that section on demand. You've got to be a subscriber. It's $4.95 a month, $49.95 a year. I go over a lot of detail there, and I'll be expanding in the future. I've also had quite a few requests, and that's from the financial side of things. But I've also had a lot of requests regarding prepping and food, water, all these kinds of things that we're always talking about. Of course, we sell a host of products at our store. Another great way to support us, get things that you already need as you're preparing, hoping for the best but preparing for the worst. But I'd like to start working on some videos in that area as well, and probably bringing in some experts in the different fields. And I think it's a good idea because a lot of people have come to me with this, and doing how-to videos as well. Some of it we'll release for free to the public, which most of it we always do. I mean, 99% of our content is free on the internet, YouTube, Facebook, all these things, like you're tuning in right now. But of course, we've got a series of other videos that, to be honest with you, I think is some of my best work that only our on-demand subscribers see. So hopefully that answers your question, and thank you for tuning in. And I don't think it's the end of the world. I think things are going to get really bad. I think war is really bad. I think economic crisis is really bad. But I would also just keep in mind that there are opportunities in a crisis or in a crisis. Just like in 2008 and 2009, if you could see what was coming ahead of time and you had prepared and you had a strategy, you excelled in an environment like that, where a lot of people were caught off guard. Danielle, says, do you think they will uphold the 20th Amendment if Hillary is elected, but dies, before inauguration? Very simple answer, I don't know. See, that's one thing I'll actually tell you here on this channel. If I don't have an answer, I don't know, I'll just tell you that. A lot of people will just lie and tell you that they know. I don't know. I'll look into it further. Kat says, I just read an article saying a new internet is coming that we can all use. Well, I do know, and this is kind of interesting with, the cessation of the internet as we once knew it. A lot of the original founders, you can do some of this research yourself, that founded the internet. Like, for example, I forget who the guy's name is, but the guy who created the pop-up box, like the pop-up advertisement that we all hate, he actually thinks he did the world like a great disservice. He's regretful that he even came up with that technology. So we have a lot of these internet pioneers that gave us this amazing technology that are actually working on a new internet now because they don't even like what the internet's become. I mean, the whole idea of the internet is freedom of expression, freedom of speech, different sources of information where we got away from unilateral power and control like we see through the mainstream media. But I've seen just in 10 years, honestly, us revert back from decentralization to centralization. That's what's really scary. I mean, there's really just a few sources of information now, and because of the digital ghettos that are monopolies, that the companies like Alphabet, Google, YouTube, Facebook, Amazon, Microsoft, Apple. I mean, why do you think if people are like, Christopher, stop pushing your platform? Well, dude, at least we are building an alternative, right? A lot of people talk about the alternative. We're building it. So, I always ask for take action. I'm an action-oriented person. So I do also think it's really cool, and I love to work with these people, and I do consult a little bit as well. I think we should build a new internet. I mean, if the internet's not working in its inherent form, and they do transfer all control over, and branches of government don't put a stop to this unilateral, football handoff that Obama's giving to totalitarian governments, so they can censor, shut down, demonetize, centralize all information, well then, screw them. We'll start an alternative. We'll do something different. So I think partnering with those kinds of people, absolutely fantastic, very interesting too. By the way, there's so much opportunity. I mean, again, it's not all negatives. There's so much opportunity in this new world. I mean, I think what's great about the things, even though they're bad things technically that are happening, is it opens people's eyes to how fragile the system actually is. Like it's built on a foundation of sand. So it's time to build anew. There's something really positive about that. I talk about there's a reason we call ourselves in this platform as alternative media television, because it's an alternative way of thinking, alternative ideas, it's an alternative lifestyle. There's amazing opportunities in that. I mean, AM TV wouldn't even exist unless there was opportunism in the future and cutting through what we see as a lot of negatives and pushing through with the positive. I think that's a really cool concept, actually. Misty says, the underdogs of the underground have become the threat that they despise. That's why they want to take the internet away from us. Christian says, either they don't like you or they don't like me, probably both having issues with Crookbook or FaceCrook or YouScrew. Another subscriber says, and I can't pronounce your name, forgive me, kind sir, says, people, what kind of new government can we build in order to get rid of the system we have now? Good question. The system we have now is corrupt because people are inherently corrupt. And I argue with a lot of my religious friends, that are into all these, various subjects, and a lot smarter than I am in a lot of these subjects. And they will tell me, Christopher, even if you refresh through the blood of tyrants and patriots, eventually, and it's cleansed, eventually there will be immorality again, and there will be corruption again, and it will be needed to be refreshed again. So how do you get around, that? Well, no easy answer, because I think it gets into, the spiritual side of things, the spiritual concept of human nature and men and women in general, that if you believe in certain, religious doctrine, no matter where you are, good versus evil, and, we live in a sinful and fallen world. Without going, too much on a spiritual tangent, I think that there was nothing wrong with how the country was originally founded. Not perfect, but the best type of government that our founding fathers could set up at the time that they set it up, with safeguards in place that if government, because they knew it would, because it's the nature of man, became corrupt or tyrannical, that we have the right as the people to shed, if need so, through force, if need so, to refresh the tyrants and to refresh the government back to the constitutional republic. And I think what's happening now. In fact, during the debate, you saw the blue mask behind the candidates, right of the people, all those things. It's almost like they're encouraging us for an open revolt, reminding us of the constitutional principles to refresh through the blood of tyrants and patriots what America once was. So I don't think that there's any perfect government. I mean, we get on debate on this forever. We could bring all kinds of intellectuals and different experts here and we just yell at each other for, forever. But I think that we had a pretty pure form of government as it was originally founded. We don't need a new one. We need to revert back to where we were. We need to refresh. And this is the problem I've had with the bankster bailouts, all these kinds of things, is there's been no consequence. No one's gone to jail. Nobody's been prosecuted. Hillary Clinton gets essentially away with murder. James Comey won't prosecute. So if there's no check to balance the corruption, we've got a problem. And that's when, and where you see is, I think we see today, kind sir, the division, the divisiveness, a lot of this engineered, of course, to keep us fighting each other, divide and conquer, but also why I legitimately, honestly feel and think through the evidence between, before my very eyes and yours, that we are on the knife's edge of an armed rebellion here in the United States of America. And that is not an exaggeration, and it is not, a pipe dream. I think we're there. I think we've seen signs of it with the Clive and Bundy standoff, for example, what we saw in Oregon. And there'll be more events like that, especially as we live through very trying times of war and economic crisis. John says her answers were clearly rehearsed and memorized. Must be referring to Hillary. Only an idiot believes that was off the top of her head. And worst of all, she didn't actually say anything of substance. It was all pandering to the emotional-driven left. People who feel they know things intellectually without actually trying to show more here, knowing them. I think I saw like a Family Guy clip or something the other day. It was on the internet where something titled like, this is what it's like to talk to a Democrat or a radical leftist, and it's a donkey. Something like this. Maybe we'll even like cut this into post-production if we can. They probably copyright infringe, so we can't probably do it. But He's like telling him the donkey facts, and the donkey's like, no, that's not true. That's not true. He's like, yes, it is. No, that's not true. Hee-haw, hee-haw, hee-haw. I mean, that's really like how the radical left is. Like, again, we talked about in today's live show, we were broadcasting on demand, of course, for all of you, and we'll put out clips on YouTube. It's like talking to a brick wall. Like, here you have the radical left, all these radical feminists, and all these things. Hillary Clinton is with a man who is an accused rapist, who is a sexual predator, who is an absolute monster. And it's like none of that matters to the radical left. So I'm sorry, man, you're an idiot. These people are idiots. They're brainwashed. You know, you can't just all write it off as, oh, it's, you know, everybody's dumb. I mean, because the system is powerful, you know? We have to remind ourselves that too. The propaganda machine is so freaking powerful, manipulative, and influential that you can't just blame people. I believe you need to arm them with information and you need to educate. You know, it's even kind of interesting with our own channel, which I love, I think is great, but we've got, you know, some of the biggest fans are probably some of our biggest critics, right? That's great. That means you're thinking. That means we're pushing you. That's good. Kevin says, what do you think will happen on October 1st with the internet? Excellent, excellent question. I think it will be stopped. I do. But I think, and it's why we've been putting out such serious warnings. I mean, I don't know for sure it's going to be stopped. I hope it is. We've seen like SOPA stopped because people really reacted, you know, quite violently to it. I mean, we saw, remember, like a blackout of the internet, popular websites like Wikipedia, et cetera, that, you know, blacked things out. We're taking donations and stuff. So negatively, we're not seeing a lot of that now. I hope and think that there's a stop to it in the branches of government, and hopefully that, you know, Ted Cruz and these activists, et cetera, that'll kick in. I don't know for sure. I hope and think it will be stopped, which is one of the reasons why it doesn't undercut the seriousness of the issue, which is why we're putting out very dire warnings of exactly what's about to transpire. But I'm hoping and I think that at least it will be delayed. You know, stopped sounds like a very aggressive word because every time we quote unquote stop something like SOPA, they do something else. They rename it, they, you know, just like we saw with the National Defense Authorization Act and the AA, all these things. You know, the whole thing with the radical liberal left agenda, their manipulation and their strategy, it's all about a death by 1,000 cuts, right? Just like with the gun laws and, you know, the gun control issues, they'll never come out and say, we want your guns. But behind the scenes, death by 1,000 cuts, you know, you can't see my feet, but if you move, you know, just barely over time, that compounds itself. All of a sudden, you have got no guns on you, no Second Amendment, no free speech, no internet. That's how they work. So stop is an aggressive word. Delayed is probably a better answer. That's what I'm hoping, you know, for. That's my best foot forward, my best intention. Kat says, what is going on with Russia of late? Very serious escalation in Syria. I think that will be a principal geopolitical event and crisis point for who it is now and for whoever the next president of the United States is. Hillary Clinton always like accuses the Donald, like it's a negative that he like respects Putin and, you know, kind of assumes he's friends with him. I actually think that's a lot better than Hillary's position, which is do as we tell you, Putin. And we're going to invade countries because that's just what we do here in America. And we're going to overthrow and topple governments and allies of your nation because that's just what we're going to do. I mean, that's far more destabilizing and violent and dangerous than Donald Trump actually diplomatically working with Putin and these people. So what's going on in Russia? Very serious escalation, not to mention an extreme propaganda war from both sides right now, which we have playing out in various forms. Patrick says it's too late. They own us now. Well, yeah, your country is bought and paid for, but we can refresh. Let me go back here. I'm going to reload one more time. We are approaching probably the end of today's show. We're doing a lot more of these Q&As. Great way, again, to get all of our content. Support us. Please do. Price of a cup of coffee, $4.95 a month, $49.95 a year. Help us take this thing to the next level. Elevate the awareness and consciousness of the American people globally. Again, this is not just American-centric, but help us push back against this globalist centralization of our greatest freedoms. All you have to do is click that link below, start your free 14-day trial. It's free. If you don't like it, then, don't stick around. But I guarantee you will, because you'll be hanging out with really cool people, the thought criminals of the world, the trailblazers. Okay, let's see if we got any other questions here. Yes, we have populated quite a few more. Let me go down the list here. I'll answer a few more before we end today's broadcast so we can get into post-production. Ryan says, even my wife, who didn't entirely agree with my way of thinking, has started purchasing more guns with me. Great, and I hope that's coupled with education and responsible gun use, something I'm a big proponent of, especially if you've got children and those kinds of things. Educate yourself, become a responsible gun owner, and educate. You can take training courses. We've got them locally here in Arizona, for example. You and your wife go get training. Learn, how to responsibly be a gun owner. That's awesome. Kat says, I just read an article saying a new internet is coming, etc. Here, let me scroll down. I think it refreshed the other way. Department of Justice is corrupt and criminal. All right, guys, I think that's about it. We have ran out of time. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please share this, like this, subscribe on demand. You've been watching AMTV, Alternative Media Television, hard hitting and in your face. Peace.